Welcome back to Buffs and Blindsides, your guide to all things Survivor 44 and Frankenship related. Back again to discuss episode 8. Spoilers ahead, so go watch that on your preferred platform if you haven't already, and we'll get into it. Or, as Jeff would say, let's get it on.
Please never do that again. And I truly mean
okay.
never. Never do
Yeah,
it.
I feel that too.
It wasn't good. Anyway,
okay.
We start out our episode. We jump into this, in my opinion, jam-packed post-tribal. Like, I felt like we got a lot right off the bat.
Right.
Some of the ones we started with, Brandon and Kane, they were, to put it simply, pretty confident of their position in the game. They felt good.
Mm-hmm.
We jump around, and then we see Heidi, and Heidi claims that she knew where the votes were going when she made the move that she did.
Yeah.
I'm going to call bullshit on that. Why in the world, if you knew the votes were the way they were, why would you steal a vote from someone who's still in the game to put it on someone who's still in the game? And the only person you're helping is the one who actually got voted out. It just doesn't make sense.
She wants to vibe with the Tika people. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But even then, like I get why she's saying it. But I felt like if she actually knew where the votes were going and that was the split, there was a very different way to actually do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think I'm still kind of confused by what she was doing there.
Yeah, honestly, I still think that like the only way it worked is if you tried to flip the vote off Matt and Jam Jam entirely. Otherwise, they could always do just what they did. Like the three of them were always going to control it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way to actually have an impact with that advantage was to flip an orange vote on an orange player.
Okay.
Which would have been interesting. We didn't get to see it. Kind of feels like a missed opportunity. I'm sure Jeff is weeping about it.
Who cares?
Or he's too busy playing
Advantages.
with some kids. Because, that's all he thinks about in the game is how a kid would feel about it, as we've learned this week.
Wait, but they got rid of the kids Survivor blues from like 41.
Oh, I forgot about that. That was for like, what was it, like 3 weeks, and then they stopped that. They realized everyone thought it was stupid.
I think they did it for the whole season.
Oh, they did? They just stopped talking about it at some point.
Yeah, maybe. Anyway, who cares about advantages? We're not talking about advantages at all this week. No advantages. Straightforward episode.
You're going to bring that up, and now I'm going to have to challenge you.
Okay.
Jeff made a very clear distinction last night. He said, does anyone have any advantages or idols they want to play? Is an idol an advantage, or is it not?
That's a good question.
Because in my book,
feel like I've always seen like advantages as like a lesser thing than an idol. But I mean, I guess an idol is technically an advantage. I don't really think this discussion is important.
Fair. It just, I don't know. It threw me off. I feel like if we're not counting idols as advantages, then no wonder Jeff feels like we need more advantages. Because, yeah, idols are still far and away the top dog. Going back to what was talked about post-tribal, we get more chat of the Misfits alliance with kind of the Tika members, some of the old Soko ones. I don't really think any of Ratu are in on that.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it more last week. I know that we've brought up the Dog Alliance a couple of times, right?
Yeah.
And I realized that in that, Matt was actually not a member of the Dog Alliance. So it was Carolyn, Carson, Franny, and someone else I'm forgetting who's still in the game. And the fact that Matt isn't in there, like, further solidifies in my mind that this is actually an in-game alliance we're going to get. And then I don't know if you saw Carson's tweet this week, but it was a photo of him, Carolyn, Franny, and I think it was Kane was actually the last one this time. And it was like, these are the 4 Harry Potter houses or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I did see that.
It was cringe, but I don't know. I feel like Carson's the kind of guy who wants to tease you. Like he wants to, like if there's someone I would trust to give a spoiler, it would be Carson.
Yeah, he's given us Easter eggs.
Yeah, which I respect.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that a little bit earlier today. Just like that Dog Alliance, that just seems like such a weird thing to tease on social media. Like that was from weeks ago. Like
Yeah, I
maybe
know.
the second or third week of the season, and I mean it's quite possible, but it's like, okay, Survivor legal team isn't coming down on them for teasing this. It hasn't been deleted from social media as far as I know.
I mean, you're kind of in a catch-22 there, though, because if it randomly gets deleted like an hour after it's posted, you're like, oh my God,
Right,
Survivor just told them to take that down. Whereas now,
right.
you're getting doubt in your mind of like, well, we haven't really seen it yet. Is it a thing? I don't know. It'll be
Hmm.
interesting. It's just a little side storyline I'm excited to follow up on as we go throughout this season.
Yeah. Well, it's
Um,
going to be like the final four or something.
who knows? It could be. It could very well be. Um, I think then we get into some of the Ratu feeling pretty good about it. First up, we see Carolyn gets a little confessional where she talks about how she just wants to keep being underestimated.
Hmm.
I found that a little ironic. Like, I completely understand the strategy, but then like every time someone underestimates her, she gets like irrationally pissed off about it. And I'm like, which is it? Do you want to be underestimated or do you not want to be underestimated?
Yeah.
Pick a lane here, boss. I'm good either way, but um, then immediately after that, we get Lauren, who I always love when the approach is like this. She goes up to Carolyn and she pretty much says more or less, I know I haven't tried to build a relationship with you like at all throughout this game. I know they've only been together on the same tribe for not that long, but I haven't tried to build a relationship with you at all this game. But like, you should want to work with me. And I'm like, how is that a winning strategy for you, Lauren? Like, what about that is appealing to a swing vote you still need?
Yeah. I don't know. That's an interesting approach, I guess. Very confident.
And to your point, speaking of Ratu's confidence, borderline hubris,
Hmm.
for Kane to drop the phrase, we are going to decimate them, when his alliance only
Yeah.
has a plurality and not a true majority, might have been the most insane thing I've heard this season so far. And we, just as a throwback, we did hear Carolyn talking about digging her son's teeth out of his shit. And I still think this might be crazier. Like,
Yeah.
how? Why?
Yeah,
As soon as
him and Brandon were getting like super cocky. I don't know what that was.
I'm trying to remember what Matt had a quote early in episode 7 where you were like, yeah, okay, he's going home. Right? And this quote did that exact same thing to me where I was like, okay,
Hmm.
Brandon or Kane is going home for sure. Oh, yeah, Matt saying that how confident he felt in their position moving forward. And like that was a dead giveaway. He was going home. Kane drops, we're going to decimate them. That's the deadest fucking giveaway I've ever heard, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the same confessional or not, but I didn't catch it when I originally watched it, but I saw on social media that Kane's confessional, it said it had Matt's name on it and his occupation. The
That was
editor
pretty funny.
mixed up their names. It's just like, oh man, someone's losing their job over this. Maybe not, but
I feel like people made a really big deal about that. And I'm not sure I completely understand. Like, honestly, the fact that this is the first time that's happened in 44 seasons is the more incredible part of it to me.
yeah,
Like, I felt like this would be a thing you're probably getting once a season, you know?
yeah,
Like, I feel like I go back to like, I worked in a fast food restaurant in high school, and people always be like, how hard is it to get an order right? And I'm like, the way these things work, it's actually more amazing when your order comes out correctly. Right? Or you like talk to a computing person about computers and they're like, it's actually pretty amazing when they do work. That was how I felt about this too. It's amazing when it does work, not when it doesn't.
yeah. I just thought it was a funny coincidence. I saw someone tweet like, well, we know that he's not winning because the editors would have taken extra care of his edit,
I mean, I agree
making
with
sure that
the
that didn't happen.
I
I
agree
mean,
with
that
the
seems
moral of the
logical.
story. Yeah, I don't think Kane's winning this game. We'll have to super cut that right when Kane goes and
I
wins
mean,
this game, but
I didn't think Kane was going to win this game even before that mix-up, but
yeah, agreed. After episode 4, when all we'd seen from him was him being a complete dweeb and wanting to get knighted by Jeff Probst, which fair enough, don't we all want to get knighted by Jeff Probst? That was when I was pretty sure, okay, there's not much development here.
yeah, he gives me kind of like maybe some Owen vibes from last season. Like,
Yeah,
just
he's definitely got like losing finalist vibes to me.
right.
Although I think Owen's iconic, and I will die on the hill that Owen is like one of our top two season 43 casts, like people. But that's just
Oh
me.
yeah, for sure. I love Owen. Um, so back at camp, I
Mhm.
guess I don't know if we had anything else, but Carson gets sick. He's thrown up. I guess they show it like for a split second he's crawling into the bushes. That can't be fun, right? And it's like that's just gotta be rough.
I had a
I don't
couple
know what
like
the
I had a bad food poisoning thing, and then I had like a weird stomach bug both this winter. And like I am in my apartment, like every creature comfort in the world, and I was just like wailing and miserable for like 2 days. I cannot imagine how absolutely awful it must be to have to sit on that beach with not a single comfort in the world, just puking your guts out, feeling like shit. Like that just has to suck so bad.
yeah. And I guess like at first you kind of just see like, oh, he threw up once or whatever, and then like he's talking to Jeff at the challenge, and he's like 8 times I threw up 8 times. I'm like, that can't be good. You're probably really dehydrated.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what there is to say about that. Just worth mentioning.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree. I don't really have much else, but I did feel very bad for the guy
hmm
during that.
Which is
Um,
surprising coming from you, Evan. Number
there's that
one
you're actually gonna get more
Carson
Carson praise
hater.
as we go this episode, so you're just
Okay.
whetting your appetite right now.
Yeah. So then we get to the challenge. They have a clue for the challenge. It's like, which is something like I don't think we've seen in quite a while. That's something they did like every challenge earlier seasons. The clue before the
Oh
challenge, kind
yeah,
of like
yeah.
a little
Fair
bit
point. We haven't
cryptic.
gotten one of those in forever.
hmm
Um, it was nice.
So it was just like pair up for the challenge. I don't know if there is anything else.
That was pretty much all we got. I do have to say that I really appreciated them actually pairing up instead of just like, guys, let's do it random so it's fair. Like, no, like
I was
let's fucking pick
surprised
a
by
partner.
that,
I
to be
loved it.
honest.
It was awesome. I hope
Yes.
any future pair ups involve actually picking partners, etc. I think it's way more interesting.
Were you like rooting for a certain pair, Evan?
During the challenge, or do you mean like well the pairs were forming? Was I rooting for one?
Like during the challenge of like the actual pairs.
Of the actual pairs, I didn't want Brandon and Kane. I mean, I'm just a Ahsoka fanboy, right? So I didn't want Brandon or Kane to
Right.
win. So I was pretty much rooting against those two, and then I was kind of fine with anyone from there. Like,
But
let's be real, we knew who was going home after the spinny tunnel. Like, there was no way Carolyn and Carson were both getting through that. So that was like, I almost felt that like wasn't even a part of the challenge to an extent.
the inspirational survivor net.
Yeah, facts.
I felt bad for Carson because it's like the challenge was barely over and then he went in. It's like
I know,
he could have
like
completely avoided the mud.
I mentioned that too while I was watching. I was like, dang, he must have actually just been rooting for her to get stuck in there so he wouldn't have
Right.
to go dive in.
He's just like very quietly like, I think you should go the other way, Carolyn.
Yeah, no, it was funny. I thought that was good. I thought it was really smart of Carolyn to team up with him too. Like, I mean, she knows he's not going to do well. She knows she's not been a challenge performer. Doesn't really want to risk pissing off someone like Danny. Because let's be real, Danny would have been such a little like crybaby if he got his challenge chance thrown by someone. So I thought she made a very good decision right there with teaming up with Carson.
Yeah, that's good strategy there. Let's see. What else happened this challenge?
I
We
loved
had
the
we had
part. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
All right, all right. I loved the part where Kane goes, "Thanks for covering us in mud first, Jeff." And then they pan to Jeff and just I don't know if you heard like noticed the sound effect, but it was a monster noise.
What?
So the monster is
I feel
canon.
like I feel like I did hear something during the challenge that was just like a very loud, jarring like
Yeah,
scream or something.
it wasn't like a true like scream
Like
or anything, but it
animal
was roar.
noise.
There was a noticeable roar. And I thought that was funny. So the monster is officially canon if it wasn't before,
Mhm.
which is really important news.
Monster's Jeff's like alter ego. I was just gonna say, I think I love when they have to like we have an immunity challenge again where they're climbing something and have to stand in like an awkward position. That was like every immunity challenge in the earlier seasons, and now we have that again.
Oh yeah, I just love those things where you're like, dang, there's actually no way I could do that. Like my feet, I'd be off that thing in seconds, I think.
That bottom one just looked impossible. Like you're just
the fact both of them transitioned to that and made it was incredible.
Yeah, right.
I definitely, my strategy had I been up there would have just been like, I'm not even going to try to transition. I'm just going to hope the other person falls off during the transition and lose if I don't.
Bold to transition
would not have worked out
first.
for me because they both made it, which I thought was insane. Good for them, but wow.
What else is there to say about the challenge?
I liked when Danny was like, "Hey Jeff," and then he just let out a massive fart. He did that for us. That was him farting on all the advantages, all the murgatory bullcrap. He did that for us. What I'm basically trying to say is that how Jesus died on the cross, Danny got in this really uncomfortable position, his feet were really hurting, and he did that for us. All right.
Did it for the fans, crapped his pants.
Yeah.
So Lauren wins the challenge. We still know like nothing about her.
We learned she has kids. I mean, I feel like we knew that because we did our preseason coverage, but my friend's like,
she mentioned
like a teacher. I was like, yeah, we haven't heard anything from her yet.
She did mention being a teacher. She's like my kids and my students or something.
Yeah.
Or like my kids and the kids at the school.
Yeah, she made it very clear. Like,
I don't even know if that was something that we like learned from the show or if that was like a pregame thing.
I think we literally do that for pregame content. I feel like.
Yeah.
Which is why it's helpful. It is kind of nice to have the background, I will say.
Yeah.
Because I've never done that before.
So back to camp. Here's like the interesting part of the episode. We get all sorts of strategizing, and it's pretty like clearly laid out, I think.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job with storytelling with it. The first thing that happens, which of course again sends me through the roof, is Brandon. He goes and he says in a confessional, he goes, "We," and then he proceeds to name 4 people, the Ratu 4, so himself, Kane, Jamie, and Lauren.
Right.
And he goes, "Have the numbers." You named 4 people in a tribe of 10. You don't have the numbers. Like, where was their confidence coming from?
He was. I think
understand.
something that like people kind of forgot about, and I saw mentioned on social media, is like they were probably very confident that Carson was with them and not Tika or something, because he was with them on the tribe for however long, a few days.
Yeah, I'll give you that, but then it's still weird to me to say we have the numbers and then name 4 people and don't include Carson in that, right?
But
like, if you think Carson's one of your numbers, why are you not including him in your list?
Yeah,
like, I just felt like they lost track of the number of people left on this island. I don't actually mean that, but I think like somewhere along the way they really kind of lost track of like, oh, these people can actually talk to each other too. Shit.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess that's something that kind of bothers me about like, I guess probably every season of Survivor is like, I guess it makes sense when you're out there to just stick with your original tribe after the merge and get some quick votes and vote out the minority. But like that just bugs me. Like you're not using the whole 10 people that you're stuck out there with and just like completely mixing things up, which would be more interesting to watch, but probably not the most strategically sound.
Yeah, I think this season's actually been kind of interesting because I feel like the new era really hasn't done much of that. Like stick with your original tribe, but clearly this season is very about sticking with your tribe. Like Soka likes Soka, Ratu likes Ratu, and I think Tika likes each other from the standpoint of they're always the ones in the middle. So they're kind of naturally still forced to be aligned. It's very different. It's very different, I feel like.
But yeah, like Brandon, very confident that Ratu is the tribe that's gonna stick together till the end. They got clear majority in his terms. I don't know. Franny's name is like the first one to get thrown out. I was kind of happy to hear that because usually the first name, like thrown out is not the person that goes home.
You had me there for a second. Like when you said they threw out Franny's name and you were happy, I was like, Tim, I will hunt you down. I will kill you. I will, as a Franny Stanny, I will do whatever it takes to
I mean,
remove that scourge. But like, yeah, no, I agree. It was nice when we like quickly rotated off her. It felt like to other people and stuff, because if Matt went home and then the next episode Franny went home, I'd weep. I'd cry. I mean, they'd be together on Ponderosa, which would be good, but like we wouldn't get to see that. And I need the Franny revenge arc to come true so badly. So badly.
Yeah. But I mean, it's also not a good sign that like they're targeting her for, I guess she's a threat. Her threat level is at a point where you have the other tribe targeting you. And she would have gone home if it wasn't for the intervention of Danny later on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not a good thing for a game, but glad that she's still around. Another thing that I wrote down was I love that Jam Jam just doesn't know what the actual tribe names actually are.
Does he not?
Like,
I did not notice that.
Just like Rotu and I forget what he called Soka. Like it wasn't even a mispronunciation. It was just like clearly wrong.
That's hilarious, actually. Like everything about that man just like does not give a shit, and I love it so much.
Yeah, what did he say to Brandon this episode?
Like, oh, you're gonna have to lie better than that to me or something.
Yeah.
Just straight up called him out for it, and he was right, so kudos to him, but it was pretty funny. No, I really like Jam Jam. He's been a very enjoyable character.
Yeah. What else happens? I guess there's just kind of like a lot of panic strategizing.
You know,
Brandon's another name that gets thrown around.
She's my winner pick, but I have to say, in 2 back-to-back weeks, we've seen 2, in my opinion, atrocious moves from Heidi. Again, like I've already commented on the one from last week and how I think she did that wrong. I have no clue what the motivation for revealing Danny's idol to Carson and Jam Jam was, it right? Like it just made no sense at all. Like I can't even begin to make sense of it. Like the actual idea itself of being like, oh, let's tell the swing voters to have an idol. Like I still disagree with that, but I can see the argument. But if that's what you want to do, I feel like you need to go talk to Danny and be like, hey, we should do this, right? Before she just goes, makes this unilateral decision, like, hey, I'm going to go tell them this. I mean, they're so lucky. She is so lucky that didn't backfire. Because I can see 3 or 4 ways that could have backfired, right? One way, Jam Jam is like, okay, well, I'm going to go tell Ratu, which he almost did. I think Carson literally saved the day on that one.
Yeah.
We have Carson goes back and tells Danny. So Danny could have been so mad at Heidi. Like Danny seems like a bit of a vindictive voter to me, I feel like. So like we easily could have seen him just be like, all right, well, screw it then. She's going to give away my secrets. Which he didn't, to his credit. Like I don't know. I just don't understand what was to gain from making her air quote move the way she made her air quote move.
Yeah. For some reason, I wrote down here in all caps, Carson, if you're the reason that Franny goes home, I swear to God. I forget what he did. I think it was maybe just talking about the idol or something, or going to the Ratu people. I mean, he did end up voting for her, so maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I guess before Tribal, I was kind of like, I feel like a lot of it relied on, okay, what's Danny gonna do? How's he gonna play his idol? But like the strategy wasn't really something that interested me a whole lot.
Yeah, I feel like this episode, and I'm gonna bring up Brandon's exit interview to kind of support my point here. It felt like there wasn't a cohesive vision for the vote on this episode. Like we had the idea that, okay, Rachu's going to vote for Franny. And we have this idea that the Green Tribe is going to, or Soka's going to try to get Brandon, and they're going to try to idol on Franny. Then we kind of have this confusion tossed in of, will Jam Jam tell Ratu about the idol, right? So that's really all we know at this point. Have you read Brandon's exit interview by chance?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I briefly skimmed it, so I didn't read all of it. Basically, like the point he made was that they just didn't have enough time at camp to like really figure this stuff out. Like apparently they only got like a couple hours, and it was very hectic, which I'm sure it always is hectic, right? So I don't want to like make it seem like, oh, it was extra wild or anything. I just truly think that they like didn't have enough time. He's like, yeah, I basically got to talk to everyone once, have a few like small side conversations, and then we could never get the group back together. So apparently there was this whole idea that the Raw 2 group had that they were going to split votes. And they were going to do, I think it was supposed to be 3-3, assuming that they got all the Tikas on their side. And they were going to split votes across the two Raw 2. And that's why they didn't feel like they needed to outplay against the Idol. Was that they were going to split 3-3, so it didn't matter where the Idol went, they would just vote them out in the follow-up. And ultimately, they like weren't able to get everyone on the same page, so they called that plan off and then threw all the votes on Franny instead, like last minute.
That's interesting. I think it's something that you don't really see on the show and like think about is that there is a lot of discussion that just simply can't happen because for whatever reason people can't get in the same place or talk to each other. Like I think there's a lot of times where it's like, oh, you ran out of time, we got to go to tribal, and you don't get the time to talk to the person you wanted to talk to. And that's something we just don't see on the show. So I guess that's an interesting thing to bring up. Do you want to go to tribal now?
I'm going to bring up one more thing. I said I would compliment Carson, and I will compliment Carson some more. Like, I think after Heidi made the terrible misplay of telling the Tika, the Tika 2 about Danny's idol, like him just going up to Danny and being like, yeah, so Heidi like spilled your shit, bro. But I'm going to go babysit Jam Jam and it's going to be fine, was like exactly how to properly handle that situation.
Right.
Like, he's not going to try to hide something from Danny. He's not going to burn that bridge. Like, Heidi isn't going to get pissed at him for that. So I thought that was a really smart, intelligent way to play it. Clearly, it panned out. Knowing what he did know, like, again, I feel like we did not get the full picture of what happened this week at all. And so I like don't want to assume things. But with the way the votes played out, where I think it was Carolyn voted with Soka, and then Jam Jam and Carson voted with Ratu. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I'm guessing one of two things happened. I'm guessing either Jam Jam was going to vote with Ratu, and then Carson was like, okay, we need to keep Jam Jam like feeling like he's one of us, so I'll vote with them too, knowing that the idol's going to get played and nullify my vote no matter what. Or it was just in general, the Tika 3 decided, okay, we want to keep kind of both sides in our good graces. We want to look like we're not a strong voting block, so we split half and half. And then, it doesn't really matter where we're throwing votes, because as long as that idol gets played, it doesn't matter. But I thought Tika, by and large, played this week out very well. And
oh yeah, they're playing the middle.
The guy, Carson, the player, actually seems phenomenal so far in his defense.
Yeah, they're playing the middle really well.
They're playing the middle, arguably the best we've seen the middle played in a long time. Long time.
We'll have to see how that plays out next week. So going into tribal, the one thing I wanted to say was, how do they all just look so clean? Like,
I didn't even notice that. Shoot.
You didn't notice that? Like,
not paying attention, TBH.
I was like, some of that, well, yeah, that too. But some of them just like looked like they were wearing clean clothes. It looked like they just had access to like shampoo or something.
Production really I'm sure it's too grimy. We got to clean this up for the ratings.
Well, yeah, I mean, after the mud, they for sure had to go clean up somehow. So maybe that's what it was. Just like everyone got clean at the same time.
That makes sense.
I don't really know like the behind the scenes stuff, but it seems like they get like merge clothes or something. Like, do you know if that's a real thing?
I have no clue. It's probably a decent thing to look into. I feel like that wouldn't make a ton of sense thematically, but you never know.
Yeah, well, I think another thing is like, okay, in the pre-merge, they're all wearing their tribe colors, sort of, and then like post-merge, it seems like they're kind of wearing whatever. Yeah, or maybe they're wearing other people's clothes. I don't know.
I do know that they like generally do like keep people's clothes and stuff like when they get eliminated. Like I know people were wearing Bruce's stuff. Like, I think every member of Tika had something of Bruce's. I'm trying to remember who else I'd read that about, but I do think that's a thing that happens now.
Yeah.
Um,
So, is there anything else to talk about with tribal aside
there's
from?
only one other thing worth talking about at Tribal, and I was pretty disturbed. Like, I'm not a parent yet or anything, but the idea that Frat and Manny could, or oh my god, Matt and Franny, just messed that up. The idea that Matt and Franny could literally have eye sex that sensual and that intense on live television, really disturbing. Like, oh my gosh. Well, it was spicy in there. Literally, Franny would
Yeah.
like open her mouth and Matt would just like smile floods his face. He's eating up anything she could say. I legit think Franny
This
could
is
talk
all
about like eating Matt's children. He'd be like, "Yeah, you go, queen."
this is all part of the plan. She got him on the jury. Now he's just gonna hype her up to the rest of the jury.
I'm not gonna like.
Makes it to the end.
I'm just saying. I don't think she masterminded that. But if that was actually like more or less her plan was like, I gave her crap last week for not throwing immunity, not trying to save
Yeah.
Matt. If she legit like thought through it and she was like, it'll be better to get rid of this pair. Like he's going to be on the jury. He's going to be the mayor of Ponderosa, which has traditionally been an extremely influential role. Like I
Hmm.
saw some statistic about like how often the mayor of Ponderosa, the first juror, basically,
Yeah.
how often they go on to vote for the correct finalist, and it's just like some astronomically high rate.
Hmm.
Because they drive so much of what happens.
I feel
It
like
is really like being the head juror at like an actual jury and trial.
I feel like that part of like packing the jury is less that's definitely less believable than like what you just said of like, oh, I'm gonna shed this person who's potentially putting a target on my back before
Mhm.
the merge or like as the merge happens. And I think that's like a decent move. I don't know. Like we'll see when she has her exit interview or when she
Yeah,
wins.
let's hope. Let's hope Matt does a good enough job to get her the
Yeah,
win.
my other note was Danny. Like as soon as he played the idol for Franny, I was like saving my credibility on this podcast. My winner pick's still around.
Yeah, shout out to Danny for that. No, I mean, I kind of bashed Danny. I'm like, I don't know if he seems like a good strategic player earlier. I think I already did it this episode too. Like,
Hmm.
kudos to the guy. This was a really, really good move. Like, this was a well played idol. Like, worked out phenomenally well. Um, just good, good, sound strategic play. That's like fundamental Survivor, and it's good to see like people haven't forgotten how to just play the base game right, despite all this new crap we're throwing on top of it.
Well, that's what it was this week. It was pretty straightforward base
And it was
Survivor.
awesome. And it was
I
great.
you know I don't want to say like I missed all the advantages,
Tim,
but like
I will slap you. So be careful.
um I just saw on social media so many people just like praising this week because it was just a straightforward episode of Survivor. No crazy advantages, twists, or anything. Just no frills. Um, and I would say like aside from like the strategic aspect of the advantages, I think they do add a bit of entertainment. Like this week was kind of boring to me in some ways. Like I'd rather have them add some more camp life or something, or a reward to make it interesting than like an advantage. Um,
I'm going to take a
I
different
just
angle here. I hear
okay,
what you're saying. I agree.
right?
I don't think we need a 25-minute long challenge. Like this
Was
entire
it really
episode,
25
it was a
minutes
25
long?
minute long challenge. It started at minute 11, ended at minute 36.
Yeah,
It was a
I
25
don't think
minute challenge.
challenges need to take up that much time either. It's
I just felt like the problem with this week's episode in my mind was that we had like four very linear story elements. Like we had the post tribal session with Carson throwing up. That was like one very linearly defined thing. We had the challenge, we had the post challenge like strategy, and then we had tribal council. And it just felt like there was no pacing to that. There was no like
mhm,
progression throughout a day. You know what I mean?
okay.
Whereas like I think some of Survivor's better episodes, you're seeing like a lot of smaller, more distinct points. Like I think Survivor's at its best when it makes you feel like you're also a part of the flurry of information that's going
Right.
around. I think this week we didn't really get any hectic nature of anything at all.
Hmm.
And maybe that was Jeff telling the editors, "Hey, do a week with no advantages and then make it a kind of boring, not chaotic episode so everyone will claim and want my advantage so everyone will cry about like needing my advantages back." Right.
Yeah.
I've heard of crazier conspiracy theories than that.
Yeah, but like to get back to what I was saying, like
Yeah,
I feel
sorry.
like they could have thrown something in there or given us some more camp life or something interesting to throw in. It just felt like maybe too much strategy or
I
something.
do
I
agree
don't
with that.
know.
It was too much
It
strategy for like it was too much strategy for how uninteresting that strategy ended up being. Like Danny's idol play was really
yeah.
good, and I don't want to take away from that, but like this wasn't a complicated vote. This was a air quote majority, plurality alliance, like claiming that they have the numbers, saying they're going to vote for a person. You have a minority tribe that definitely does not have the numbers. That basically just has to guess if they want to idol or not and who they're going to vote for. Like there was
hmm
nothing complicated about the strategy this week that warranted as much time as we spent on it. This would have been a great episode just for some culture, just for some camp life, I think. And I felt like it
Yeah,
was kind of a missed opportunity.
agreed. Or reward or something.
Yeah, reward, that would have been good too. And yeah, like going back to the point of like a 25-minute challenge is too long. Like two 10-minute challenges or even like two 12 and a half, right? It's the same total amount of challenge time is so much better because you're splitting it up in the middle. Like that
We
one
d-
long challenge, you lose track of it and it just kind of feels like it's gone on for a while. But then at the end of it, you're still like, okay, that was one challenge. That like that's what you remember, not how long that one challenge was and
Oh
how
yeah, for sure. And
especially because this
like
wasn't a hype one. There was no like really fun or interesting that had happened. This was just a
mhm.
long, kind of uninteresting challenge.
Yeah, I agree there. And like when I was binge watching Survivor at like the beginning of the pandemic, like
Good times.
challenges and tribals are like the two things that I just pretty much like not pay attention to. I wouldn't fast forward through them, but I would just like maybe be doing something else, looking at my phone. Like I don't think they're the most interesting parts of the show. And
I I love the challenges. Like, and I've
well,
also
when they're
been during the
interesting.
pandemic, but like the early challenges in this game were so much more about like dynamics between the players. I felt like they required a lot more teamwork and like actual communication. Like now, a lot of the team challenges are still like, okay, two people are going to go do this and break off, and then two other
Mhm.
people are going to go do this. Whereas like before, like one of my favorite challenges ever used to be like they'd just make a big circle in the water and you'd have bags of weight on you, and then your whole tribe would have to just walk around. You had to go lap
Oh,
the other
like the
team, basically.
snake.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like you have the element of like, okay, the people out there need to be working together. You need to decide when your slower members who can't carry their bags of weight are gonna bow out of the challenge and pass their bags off. I think things like that are kind of gone from the challenges, and now it's like here's your obstacle course that you're going to complete in stages, or here is your balancing act, and that's kind of it. And to your point, that's just made the challenges a lot more forgettable. Like when you're seeing the same challenge every season, you're like, I mean, this exact challenge more or less was done last year. They changed
Mhm.
the part at the end,
Which
which
is
was
like
an
the rope,
upgrade.
the
Yeah,
pulley thing.
yeah, I think it was. So like they made it better, but even then, I'm like, I've seen this before, and it's not really that like watching them unspin that rope. I guess like maybe Jeff gets off to that, but like I don't think it's that interesting to watch. I'm sorry, it was just Carolyn screaming. It wasn't good last year. It wasn't good this year. I don't know why we brought it back, to be honest.
Because it's inspirational. Getting stuck in the net.
Getting stuck in the net and then having your tribe help you out. I always love that too, because they always make a point of how they help them out of the net. I'm like, yeah, you'd be an asshole if you didn't help them out of the net. Let's not applaud like basic decency is like some huge team working element out here. Like, come on.
Yeah. Um, is there anything else to say about this episode or anything about next week? I mean,
Now
it'll
that
be
you think of
interesting
it,
to see
I was in a time crunch last week. I didn't even watch the scenes from next week. Did we get anything interesting, Tim?
for this coming week.
Yeah, like the scenes for next week. Was there anything interesting?
It goes by so quick that I honestly like don't pick up on anything, and most of it's like misdirects anyway.
Cool.
The one thing I did see was Danny just like hunting for idols,
Cool.
which I'm excited for. I always like when people are hunting for idols.
Yeah, like when you're actually doing an idle hunt, I agree. It's fun. I don't like when
Um,
they're like, "Here's your piece of paper. Now everyone go run off into the jungle at the same time." But like when it's just like an idol's out there and people are just going to look, I do enjoy that quite a bit.
yep. So not much to say. I mean, pretty
No, I'm
straightforward
good.
episode. My winner pick's still around. Evan's winner pick is still around.
I don't feel good about mine. I feel a lot better
But
about
they're
yours.
both on the same side. They're
They
both
are
on
on
the
the same
same
side.
side. So we'll see what happens to the Soka group. I'm feeling stronger about the feeling stronger about the Tika 3 after this episode. I think they're in a good spot.
You know what's interesting is like, although Ratu was the 4, I just feel like the story really has not been about Ratu really at all.
No, not at all.
So like even though they have the numbers, I think that was part of what made me just like, yeah, Ratu's going home. Like, I think this is actually a really logical group of Survivor players so far. Like, they have generally made a very like sane, sensible decision with pretty much every vote, outside of maybe some of the early ones. Like, yeah, it was pretty clear to me when you had 2 tribes of 3 people that they were obviously going to get together and target the tribe with 4 and just make it all movies.
Right.
Which has been nice to just see like good, sensible, like the standard way to play this out. But yeah, like I just, it really feels like our winner is coming from probably from Tika, maybe from Soka. I know we both have Soka winner picks, but like this season really feels like the story of Tika and Soka, and Ratu has just kind of been here. But don't worry,
100%.
They're going to decimate according to Kane. So
yeah. So we'll be back next week with more Buffs and Blindsides. Thanks for listening.
Peace, everybody.
Peace.